Hi, I'm Pantazi. I wanted to talk to you today about this coronavirus. Now, I've been researching this since it first came out in December of 2019 in Wuhan, China. I heard early reports of it being very serious, so I started researching it very seriously, as I do with most things that I come in contact with. I'm going to be putting a special film on how I've researched and found different ways that the Chinese populace has released that they found that combated this virus, number one, and what they do to make sure that their body is hardened. Now, as martial artists, that's what we do. We harden ourselves against attacks or opponents. Well, this is an attack and this is an opponent. All right, so there is ways to harden yourself. Now, let's face it, it's going to be hard not to come in contact with this in some way or some degree or another. And it is going to have some latent abilities. It stays on surfaces, smooth surfaces, for they say 9 days. They say it stays up to 24 days on other surfaces. So at some point, we're going to come in contact with this. Now, within your body, you have many viral seeds, okay? And they just don't have enough to affect you. So we carry viruses around, and this one we're going to be carrying around again. So it's our job to fortify ourselves and strengthen ourselves against this type of an attack. And there's some very clear things that we can do that I'm not going to describe here on YouTube because, of course, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a physician. This is what I researched, this is what I'm doing for myself and my family, okay? And I have researched this to find enough people that are doing this with success that I'm going to put it on the Patreon channel as a side note, not here on a public forum to get the ridicule, the comments, the whatever. So again, this is not medical advice. This is something that I researched, I found had success rate, and that I'm doing for myself and my family. And as a martial artist that has learned or trained all their life to fortify and forge their body into a stronger and more resilient individual, this is one way to do it for this virus. So check the link below and you can see all the information there. Now, for the virus, all right, the Chinese community has found that megadosing vitamin C is the person's best bet. First of all, to prevent, okay? That's what you want to do. You don't want this thing to get a hold of you. Now, I'm not going to say it's a bioweapon or a natural weapon. However, when they've dissected this or inspected this virus, they have found 2 insertions that are HIV proteins. Now, that doesn't occur naturally in life, okay, but this virus has that. Now, the vitamin C is great for the viral impact, okay, but we need other things. Now, vitamin A is excellent for respiratory fortitude and health. Now, vitamin A naturally builds up your lungs, and this is where this virus seems to be attacking people. It's a pulmonary attack, and it gets so bad that the lungs fill with a very sticky substance, and the people have pneumatic drowning, to say, to put it bluntly. Their tongue gets a thick gray coating that is very hard to get off. And there's ways to expectorate this, but it's very difficult, and many older people especially can't handle that. Many younger people that have survived this or pulled through this have gone through some turmoil, and their lungs are actually scarred from this. So we want to make sure that we can prevent this if at all possible, okay? We don't want it to get that hold in our body that we could possibly get rid of it, but still suffer major damages in our pulmonary system. So what I'm going to suggest also is the vitamin A was for the bronchial tissues, the lung tissues, to fortify those. Vitamin C, as I mentioned on the earlier aspect of the video, was to boost your immune system, okay? And it's your immune system that's going to hopefully ward off this virus and help you. And not only vitamin C, but vitamin D3. Now, vitamin D you can get by going out in the sun and, take your shirt off, get a lot of sunlight on you. Like if you were sunbathing, the summer's coming, so that's good, but it's kind of a little bit long time from now, so you need to make sure that you're boosting, your vitamin A, your vitamin D3, your vitamin C. Now, there are two special things that I've learned about that I would like to discuss with you also. First of all is chaga mushroom. Okay, now chaga is a mushroom, or actually a cancer for birch trees. Now, birch trees are very virulent proof. Okay, in fact, in the World Wars, they used to do all their outside surgeries in birch forests because no viruses or bacteria could grow in it, because there's something in the birch that kills off these antibodies, these bacteria, and these viruses. So the mushroom has all of these important components. Now, chaga mushroom is relatively cheap. You can get 8 ounces of powder for like $18. And I'll put a link below I'll just say it right now. It's called nuts.com, nuts.com. It's a nut store, but they also import the chaga. Now, chaga grows on the birch trees, but the best ones are organic, number one, as we all can expect that. And it also comes from trees that are in very cold climates: Siberian, Canadian, Alaskan. Okay, these are the ones that you want to look for. There's different chagas from warmer climates, but they're not as potent. So I personally buy Siberian chaga because they've been using chaga for their immune system and health in Siberia for thousands of years. Okay, so this is made in powder form. You can get it in root form also. I find the root is just a little harder to work with. The powder is easy. I just put a quarter of a teaspoon in a cup of coffee, or just make a quarter of a teaspoon tea out of it, and I just put the powder right in the cup, fill the cup with the hot water, stir it around, let it sit for a while, and it pulls out a lot of the nutrients that will boost your immune system, but also make you resistant to that HIV protease. Now, this is a little particle of the HIV that attacks your brain. So this also helps protect you against that possibility as well. So the chaga tea, you do it daily. Now, for kids, the dose is less. Okay, if you make a cup of tea for yourself with a quarter of a teaspoon, you just take a tablespoon of that tea and just plop it in their apple juice, their orange juice, their milk, whatever it is. They'll never taste it because it's watered down, but it builds their immune system quite well. Now, this is not the best way to make the chaga, by the way. They have chaga extracts. Now, those are more costly because there's a processing that goes along with that. It's called alcohol processing, because there's 4 components in the chaga. 2 are released readily. They're soluble chemicals that are released in the water. 2 are released with alcohol, okay, because they're insoluble and you have to go through another process. But for our intents and purposes, the tea is easier. Okay, you can make it by yourself. You don't have to go through this process of distilling it with the alcohol, and where you keep it in an alcohol jar with alcohol, covered completely, shaking it up every day for 8 weeks, and then you boil it down from, you add water to it, you boil it down to its original volume, and then you can take that as a tincture. Okay, much more powerful, much more potent, but not too many people are going to spend that kind of time. And right now, let's face it, this virus is moving fast, so maybe you don't want to spend that time. Maybe you can make yourself a batch like I am, but do the process. But in the meantime, start taking daily doses of the chaga. Okay, and you can find it anywhere. And if you do research, just put out chaga, C-H-A-G-A, chaga mushroom. Okay, and you can read everything about it. It's a fascinating medicinal mushroom that's been around for thousands of years and revered for thousands of years for just these type of issues. One other thing I want to talk to you about is if you do have a problem and you are attacked with this, you're going to have a lot of phlegm and a lot of it's going to be hard to cough it up. You're not going to be able to get rid of it. So there's two things you can do as an expectorant to get this accomplished. And this is natural. This is not pharmaceuticals. This is not a vaccine that they're working on now that they're not going to test. They're just going to start putting it in people, and you don't know what that's going to do. Anyway, the first one is elderberry. Okay, get a tincture of elderberry. You can get elderberry in powder. You can get it in many different things. This helps expectorate the phlegm that starts building up to keep your lungs and your throat clear so you can breathe. Another one is something called Usnea. Okay, U-S-N-E-A. It looks like moss or little fingers or little strings or pasta or whatever it is, hair maybe, growing down from trees. All right, so this is a very potent thing and shouldn't be taken as a precautionary, okay? Along with the elderberry, you don't need to take that so much as a precautionary. These are for if you do get filled with this virus, or you do have the fluid building up in the lungs. Now, this doesn't replace going to a doctor and getting medical help. I mean, do that immediately. But this is stuff that you can work on your own if doctors aren't available, or if the hospitals are in crisis, like they were in China and Iran and Italy, where they can't take that many people. This is something you can hopefully help your family member with, yourself with, in that type of a dire circumstance, okay? And what you do is you take that tincture and it will make you cough up all that stuff. Now, it's not going to be pleasant because that's a very strong, potent application or tincture. And you should buy that just in the tincture form, okay? So you don't have to go through that process. Yes, it's a little more costly. It won't go bad on you, so you can grab it. You can stick it in your medicine cabinet for whenever it's needed. But that's another thing that you need to look into as this virus envelops the world. Now, let me also say that I've also heard, besides it being a bioweapon, besides it containing HIV protease, that it also is going to make another lap or two around the planet. Now, the second lap is supposed to be more dangerous from what I hear. I can't substantiate any of this. I'm only reading what research I've found on this. So if it makes one lap and it's causing as much damage as it is now, imagine what the second lap is when we're all weakened from this first round. And how about our medical systems? And our economics, everything's going to be tougher. So you have to make sure that you're fortifying yourself with those early steps I mentioned. Because if this makes a second lap like they're thinking it's going to, or a tertiary lap, which will be weaker than the second one, you just don't want to be susceptible. So exercise, eat better foods, okay? And here's another aspect to it. Again, sorry, I research and I've got a lot in my brain on this. Cut away from the starches, the grains, the seeds, the pastas, the processed foods, the sugars especially, because that gives your body a base in it that the virus will grow. If you're more meat, okay, and vegetable, then you're going to be a little bit more fortified against this. Now, there's a new diet that's out there. It's not new, but it's now getting popular, and it's called the carnivore diet, where they just work basically on meats, okay? And this is supposed to be the safest for you against the viruses, because it grows in those sugar-based foods in your gut, okay? Whereas in the carnivore diet, the protein, it won't allow it to attach and cause its difficulties. So that's another way you want to start researching. I'm not telling you what to do. Please just do your own research, look into it, see if it's something you think maybe is good for you to fortify ourselves. Because again, martial artists make themselves strong against would-be opponents. And this is not a would-be opponent, it is an opponent. And it's coming around the world, so we might as well be ready. So there's many different areas that we could go off on. That's going to keep you involved for a long period of time. Luckily, vitamin C is plentiful. Vitamin D and A are also plentiful around the world. Chaga at this time is relatively unknown. There's many different places you can get this. Make sure you get the true northern organic chaga that comes off the birch trees, not where they've grown it mushroom, okay, like you can do with some other, like the Kamchatka mushroom, where you can grow a mushroom on top of a mushroom and keep that going perpetually. They can do that with other mushrooms as well, but you want it right off the tree because that's where it gets those nutrients that can kill the virus and ward off that HIV protease. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I hope you see why I put it in Patreon instead of sharing this information, because it is a little bit tricky. Some people are just scared to death. It's more getting to be a political arena. It's just a mess out there. But as a martial artist, I want to offer you this idea to fortify yourself, make yourself stronger, and see what it can do for you and your family. Okay, again, not a suggestion. This is only my research and what I've found and what I'm doing for myself and my family.